Service is about making things easier and saving the client time. So stay with me, everybody in podcast land. Experience, on the other hand, is about capturing your attention and holding it and creating time well spent.
Hi, I'm Chris Reynolds, and for my entire career, it's been my mission to help independent financial advisors build a better business through a remarkable client experience. In this podcast, you're going to hear from the visionaries, from the leaders, from the independent advisors who are reshaping the future of the financial advice industry. At the end of each episode, I'm going to leave you with at least one winnable idea that you can start implementing right away. Let's turn the page on building a better business. Today's episode of Turning the Page, we have Dennis Moseley-Williams, and we had a great talk. You're going to hear us talk about all kinds of things as it relates to the experience economy and changing the viewpoint of financial advisors, and in fact, all entrepreneurs, on focusing on the client. And there's three real takeaways and three things you're going to learn in the next 30 minutes. One is the difference between client experience and client service. And there's a very big distinction between these two things. You're also going to learn about beginning with the desired emotional outcome. What is it that you want your clients to feel with every interaction? And thirdly, you're going to think about what would you do different if you were charging admission. It's a great episode, and I look forward to everyone listening to it. Welcome to our next episode of our podcast. This is Turning Your Page with your host, Chris Reynolds, and I'm super excited today. We have Dennis Moseley-Williams from Dennis Moseley-Williams Strategic Counsel, and I'll tell you why I'm excited. Both of us share, well, now we also share kids in the hall, we just found out. But we share the passion of focusing on the client experience and why that isn't so important. And Dennis is like the master of this kind of stuff. He's been writing about it. He actually wrote a book, Serious Shift, How Experience Staging Can Save Your Practice. I highly recommend everybody read it. It is the guidebook of the experience economy, and specifically in the wealth management business where, so much tendency tends to be on the product as opposed to the actual experience. So welcome, Dennis. It's certainly a pleasure to have you.
Right on, Chris. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me. It's always exciting. It's always very gratifying to be asked and exciting to be asked. So thanks for that. Well,
and I also found out that you have a blog as well with 9,000 subscribers, which is also the Serious Shift. So once again, right. Certainly recommend everyone go and have a look at some of the writings that Dennis has done. It's been fantastic. So, here's the main question. Okay. Advisors are out there and they want to differentiate their business. How would you recommend that they focus on the client experience? And then the other subtlety that I really like in your work is client service is not an experience. And so maybe you could expand upon that. What should people do? What should they be doing right now?
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah. Let's start with that idea that customer experience and customer service are not the same thing. So let's start there, because that's everything. When you think about it, customer service is all about making things easier for the client. Really, it's about greasing the skids to the transaction.
I like it.
Right?
Good.
Geez, just two days ago, I checked into a beautiful hotel, and there was sort of a point of sale constraint at the check-in, right? It's like, this isn't right. Nobody wants to stand. Service is about making things easier and saving the client time. So stay with me, everybody in podcast land.
Yeah.
Experience, on the other hand, is about capturing your attention and holding it and creating time well spent. Let's use that check-in example.
Right. That's a great one. I was going to say, give us some examples.
Okay. So I travel all the time for work. I'm lucky to get to do that. And I stay in a lot of hotels where they text me the night before I check in, and they say, hey, do you want to check in now? You're going to be here in 24 hours. Would you like to check in? Doesn't seem like a terrible idea, does it?
Right.
So you say, sure, I will check in right now. And then they say, hey, do you remember, this is all under the guise of doing me a favor.
Right.
And then they say, for an extra $16, would you like to buy another $129 a square footage to sleep in? So there's the upsale.
The upsell, which of course,
you want to buy your way to the lounge, the breakfast, right? And what does it allow me to do? It allows me to say yes, yes, no, no, yes, check in. I show up at the hotel and I can skip the check-in process, go right to the elevator. It's turned my telephone into a room key that'll operate the elevator and get me in, and it's done.
Right.
That's service. Now stick with me.
Right.
The Four Seasons will never do that.
Right.
Why? Everyone listening, you're the Four Seasons. Because the Four Seasons doesn't want to deny me or them time well spent. Not only do they not want me to breeze through the lobby into the elevator, they want me to come to the counter and have a moment.
Right.
To feel something. You know, I've done tons of speaking for this one firm in Boston, and they had all their meetings at the Four Seasons. And I used to say in every engagement, you know, part of the reason that today's going really, really well is we all woke up at the Four Seasons. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Like, you know, well, it's a hell of a long way from North Bay, Ontario. I'm doing all right. You know, I must have done something right. You know what I mean? So service is about speeding things up and making them efficient. Experience is about slowing things down, making them personal and memorable, and creating a desire to linger.
I love that. I love it. And as someone, you know, just recently, actually, I was in Mexico City, and I actually stayed at the Four Seasons in Mexico City. And here's actually not even the greatest story, but it is a great story about service. So, of course, I was in Mexico. So one night I wasn't feeling so well. Ordered a ginger ale, and of course, my wife had to tell them, of course, that I wasn't feeling well. I go down the next day. As soon as I pass the concierge, they're like, oh, Mr. Reynolds, I hope you're feeling better. I go to the restaurant for breakfast. As she comes over, she's like, oh, Mr. Reynolds, I hope you're feeling better. Can I bring you another ginger ale? I'm like, I go to my wife. I'm like, how many people did you tell about that I wasn't feeling well last night? But it's amazing. Somehow that made it through the entire complex. And I'm telling you this story, and I've at least told that story 20 times since I've been back. So it's also being that remarkable client experience, which I think you touch upon.
Well, yeah. And the thing that our business has going for it, the financial services industry, is it's relationship based. You're going to see your clients over and over again for years and years and years. So just think about the effort and intention that the Four Seasons in Mexico City brought to you, and you're only there for a handful of nights, then you're gone. They may never see you again. So you take that kind of experience and you break it down and you apply it to a financial planning practice.
Right.
What's that like when you and your wife go visit your advisor and they brought that posture to the meeting with you?
Well, absolutely.
I'm having a thought here, which is I would be remiss if I didn't share for everyone who's tuning in, which is, you know, one of the first things you need to understand when you're staging experience is you begin with your desired emotional outcome first. Business outcome second.
That's a really, really good point. And one that I bet a lot of people don't get in this business.
So imagine, like, if we wanted to stick with checking in at the hotel equals walking into your office. How does, you know, in the example I gave, it's all convenience. Here, check yourself in. But really, it's a sneaky wink to an upgrade.
Right.
Can I squeeze 57 more dollars out of you? And if you think about it, that's what service always does, is it takes your client and pushes them right at the cash register.
Right.
Even if your cash register is managing a $2 million portfolio for somebody. Okay. Whereas the Four Seasons, they want you at the counter because they want you to feel something. How about this? Pride.
Right.
Proud of myself for being here. This is not the Super 8, with apologies to the Super 8.
Right.
I appreciate you keeping the light on.
Right.
Right? So how do you know, if everybody listening right now, like this, I love this desk. I know people coming into your office, how do you want them to feel? Can you imagine if meeting with your advisor, just being in your advisor's presence made you feel proud of yourself?
Right.
Not because, by the way, look at all the money you have. What if you have next to nothing? What if you're just building this? What if you're 28 years old with a really good job?
Right.
And literally $50,000 and a long way to go.
Yep.
You should still feel proud of yourself with your advisor. How did I choose this amazing person? They're so good to have in my life, et cetera, et cetera. So always begin with the emotional outcome first, business outcome second.
Right.
That's
I love that. I love that tip. Now, do you have any good examples that you've seen applied where an advisor has really made someone special or used, done that? I'm going to call even the check-in. Is there anything that you can point to?
No, well, for sure. I mean, here's where it begins. Your work has to be about something. So what I tell my clients is, there's service, which is what you do, and it's all commoditized. There's experience, which is how you do it.
Right.
And what we all know is that when you recognize a human being's need, we all have it, even me.
Yep.
I could even say especially me, maybe.
Well,
even me. To be seen as an individual and not a client, a customer, a number, a person, Dennis Moseley-Williams,
real person.
Individual,
right.
A market of one totally unique client. Well, that's experience, how you do it, and we know we'll pay you more for that. I mean, that's why we go to Starbucks. That's why we stay at the Four Seasons. It's just a hotel, but the way they do it and how it makes us feel is worth something we pay more. But what advisors really need to be thinking about is this next step, which is consequence.
Right.
Service is what you do. Experience is how you do it. Consequence is ultimately what your business is about. How you change the client, who you help the client become. So you asked me a question about who's doing it well. That's a tricky question for me to answer.
It is.
Here it is. It's self-serving, so I apologize. That's my disclaimer. I know a number of clients that I work with personally who are doing it well.
Right. But that you have firsthand experience, and that's
correct.
Probably why they're doing it.
Correct. And they've committed to this idea of transformation, of consequence, of staging a series of sequential events, which I will just clarify. Wow, what could that be? Well, those are review meetings and check-in calls and onboarding and client events and all the things that everybody listening to the podcast does already, however, adjusted, shifted, if you will, seriously, away from delivering services to staged experiences that lead clients to, let's just call it a eureka moment, to achieving their aspirations. Right. And this is, I throw these little questions out, but it's for everybody listening, it's like you write this down to think about. How do you want your client to finish this sentence? And Chris, I'll just use you. Chris, thanks so much for everything you do for it. Hey, Chris, thanks for everything you do. We look forward to these meetings with you, and you're really wonderful and reassuring. And I got to be honest, when the whole world was flipping its desk and, when the market was melting down, Sherry and I didn't even think about it. No, we didn't even think about it. Okay. But wait, what I really want to thank you for is this. If it wasn't for you, I don't even think Sherry and I would know about what? X. Yeah. Okay. And it shouldn't be, I wouldn't even know about the downside capture, or I wouldn't even know about it's not about the money. It's this. Wow. Not only do I not care about that noise, since I started working with you, you've had a really profound impact on the way Sherry and I see this. Right. And as people, we feel like since we met you, you've helped us become better. So I know a number of individuals I work with who do that, who are guided by, an experience staging. My partner, Tom, and I refer to this as the theme. The theme. It's the reason of your work. Okay. And it informs everything you do. Right. So I have a number of clients who have committed to this idea of what we really call the new you, the complete transformation. Right. Where your money's a part of it. It's just a tool, but everybody listening knows, well, we all know somebody who has a lot of money that's miserable. I mean, my goodness.
Exactly. There's always a few.
So how do you measure the success, right? And it's like, well, how about we measure it in what Brian Portnoy, a friend of mine in the United States, wrote a book called The Geometry of Wealth. which I really need to start getting some royalties on. My goodness, I love that book and I tell it all the time. Anyhow, I always say to Brian, I'm pretty sure I was the first guy that went crazy for your statement. And he said, funded contentment.
Funded contentment. Ooh, I like that. I'm even going to write that down right now. Funded
you should. I have it tattooed in Latin on my arm. So they, financial advisors can manage the funded. Not too many people are managing the contentment. Now I'm going to switch to, your question is who's doing well? Well, a whole bunch of financial advisors I know are doing well.
Right.
There's a group in Toronto. They're called Kind Financial. I really like them. I am hoping to work with them. They're two guys. One of them, Tim and Dan. Tim's a really good guy. He's been sort of a fan of mine, if I can say that, for a long time. Follows all my stuff. And I spoke with them the other week. I love what they're doing. They are really committing to this idea of transformation. They've even changed the way they charge. They don't charge for assets under management.
Interesting.
Their fee is based on a factor of your overall net worth. So what if one year they say to you, no, you know what? You're all mortgage. We're just paying down your mortgage this year, just as an example. We're not going to put another $1 in assets under management. Well, they still increase your overall net worth. They charge you on a factor on that, and they cap it at a certain amount. So like, I don't want to tell their business other than to say they're great, and I really like them. And as I said, I told Tom Frisbee, my business partner, oh my goodness, I think I just met you and I in a parallel universe, sitting on the other side of the
doing this. Yeah,
these guys are great. Okay, and so they're doing it really well. Now let's go now to organizations, and here it is. Nobody.
Right. Yeah. It's and I see it, right? I'm in the industry, and it's I'm going to say it's almost hit and miss. There are areas of vast brilliance where you really see people really, really focused on that experience, but the traditional business, of course, is still transactional, right? And so people just can't let go of the fact that, they believe that their value proposition is all around the, whatever investments that you hold. And I'm not saying that it's not, but I am saying, and I think you're saying, that's fine, but the experience should come first. Like, it's how that client feels is where you should focus your attention.
That's exactly right. It's how the client feels, as the famous saying goes, they'll forget what you do, they'll forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So
exactly.
It's the experience, but it really is, it's this confusion about service and experience. Like, you look at everything that comes out in our industry on customer experience, and there's a lot of emphasis on technology.
Right.
Look at all this great stuff. Do you think anybody's clients care about that?
Right. Yeah.
So, and remember, go back to the initial problem. You keep talking about how this is such a wonderful benefit to the client because it makes everything faster. You folks must get really excited when you check out your own groceries, huh?
Yeah.
when you go to Pearson or you go to your airport, and they say, hey, check yourself in and then go check in your bags. My God, you must feel like the vacation already started, eh? Really?
That's an excellent
You go to Trader Joe's, there's no checking out your own bags, your own groceries. Doesn't happen at Whole Foods, doesn't happen at Farm Boy. It's about creating time well spent. So again, like, they're all confused, and they're talking a mean game. We really believe in the client experience. All of their efforts are to turn it from 100 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour.
Right.
Slow it down.
I think that's great advice. And actually, it's a good segue into the next thing that I was going to ask you about, which is, one of the things, of course, COVID has done is it made us all look like this, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how your day is, but here's my day. I yell into a computer for 8 hours and then I go home. Someone asked me, like, what do you do for a living? I'm like, basically, I yell into a computer. And hopefully the person on the other end hears me. But it has changed the interaction between, especially in our business, between advisor and client, and the use of technology and this whole sort of hybrid shift. How would you say that advisors should embrace this, and what should they do as it relates to the experience utilizing, and I use quotes in technology. This isn't great technology, just you and I talking in different cities. But, how would you see that affecting the wealth management business going forward?
Okay. Be careful. First of all, be careful, everybody. So same thing happened to me. We all got put on the Zoom, as you say. And by the way, I joke with people that I think I'm teetering on an almost inappropriate relationship with the little green light.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how are you? It's like, I'm really good. How are you today? You look really green.
Yeah,
You look great today. Really green.
And I get to look at myself all day too. That's the other factor of this technology.
Okay, so it's important to understand that where we are is not where we were going. This happened to us.
Right. We were
I'd never had a Zoom call or whatever this is called before I had to. Now I love it, and it's never going away.
Right.
I got to not lose track of my answer here because I want to talk about part of convenience within experience.
Right.
As I said earlier, don't confuse. It's not just making it faster.
Right.
But a part of experience is smoothing out the sacrifice your client has to make.
Sure.
Okay, so yes, while I'm saying, efficiency kills experience, I'm also saying don't make them do anything they hate. Speed up, smooth out the things that they dislike. But here's a statistic I read the other week that I've incorporated into my presentations. Close to 60% of investors prefer Zoom meetings.
Interesting.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
That means close to 60% of investors don't think there's a reason to go. You're not worth the drive.
Right.
So let's turn that around. You should be a can't miss event. Now, everybody listening, a moment ago, I referred to this idea of the new you, like really committing, taking each client and not, everybody's on their own journey. The one thing that we all need is health and money. So we look after our health, you look after our money. Then we have these other aspirations. And what I'm suggesting is, no. When you commit to staging experiences, to teaching your clients a secret, something that that's going to make them better, help them achieve these things, okay? And your meetings are not just updates on product. Well, here's what's going on in the market. If that's all you want your meetings to be, then do them on Zoom.
And
that's all you got.
It's a pretty good medium. Yeah.
If like literally, if it's this could have been an email, then save me the damn drive. Then save me the drive.
Right.
But who wants to run that? What's the difference between a meeting and an event? Before I go too far down that, let me say this. So you wouldn't use Zoom? No, Zoom's great. I would be using Zoom as a part of my experience.
Right. As a step.
Yeah, because sometimes I want to say, Chris, look, I want to show you some great stuff. Hey, let's just do this. I know you're at your cottage, it's the summer, or I know you've been busy, you've been traveling. Let's have this little meeting. And I can share my screen and I can, have some fun with it. However, there is no substitute. The bedrock of this relationship, the foundation of the advisor-client relationship is face-to-face time. And this isn't the same as being in my presence or being in your presence. So what everybody needs to do is embrace this idea. You deliver services, but you stage experiences.
Right. I like that. Actually, there's another thing I'm going to write down. I love that.
All work is theater. Every business is a stage.
Right.
The services, the products, doesn't matter what your business you're in, those are just props. What you want to do is be an event. What's an event? It's something that we look forward to. Right. There you go. And when it's on, it's on. Right. And when it's over, we talk about it.
Right.
Okay, well, nobody talks about, I went downtown, I did this, we sat down, we talked about this. Yeah. And it seems like, let me just give you the next financial planning meeting you're ever going to have for the rest of your life. Take some time, diversification, blah, blah, blah. It'll come back. That's why we keep cash, bought some good stuff on sale. And then what do we say?
Right.
Go live your life. Well, get involved in that life. Right. Be their hero. Quit being an advisor. It's a commoditized service. It's important, but subsue it up into something larger. I prefer advocate.
Right. Advocate. I like that.
An advisor is an expert that gives you advice on a specific subject, but an advocate publicly supports a cause or a policy.
Right.
So if you dropped, and this is what a wonderful thought for a podcast. If you dropped dead,
right,
and all your clients went to your funeral, what are they going to say you were about?
I like that.
He was really about sharing a lot of detailed information. Oh God, you're probably really
about going through the markets. Yeah.
I couldn't miss a meeting with Dennis. I couldn't walk out of that guy's office and not stand a little taller and feel better about myself. He taught me so many things. He brought in all these things, books, thoughts, experts. The whole world is connected. Like, anybody listening, just as an example, right? Oh, I work with all these business owners, medical people, dentists, doctors. Well, it's like, oh, great. What do they need to know about the patient experience? Well, you could easily tap into an expert, host a Zoom, for instance. Right. It's like, hey, this is Dennis. Hey, how are you? A bunch of dentists in your practice. Patient experience, how it works. Yeah. Like, there's so many ways to help it out, but there should be no substitute for the in-person meeting. You got to stage that experience. An experience is time well designed. There's so much, obviously, that I could talk about on this issue, and I put you right into the ground and talk about it for so long. But the point of it is, at the end, you need to get to this level. You need your client today to know they have a meeting coming with you. And they look up on their calendar and they see, oh, it's not in 3 weeks, it's in 5 weeks. Right. And you want them to feel disappointed. Oh, I was really looking forward to that. You don't want to ever find yourself if you find yourself in the position where one of the people in this couple is saying, do I need to go? Really? Yeah, why don't you just go? Why don't we do it by Zoom? Yeah. What's the next thing that happens? Right. This is commoditization. Right. First we make it easier, then we make it cheaper. Right. And granted, everybody out there is more of a money numbers person than I am, but here's the deal. Even I know it's right beside one. Right. Yeah. I think one of the best, and it might have been you actually, but one of the best things that I think is a lesson is, what would you do different if you were charging admission? That's right. That's correct. Yes. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to say it was you. Well, you give it to me, and then I'm going to give it to who that really belongs to. The book that changed my life and the life of so many people is The Experience Economy by Joe Pine. That's it. Yeah. That's it. I'm almost willing to say, well, most of the things I said on this podcast, even, oh, wow. It's like, okay, look, I borrowed that from the Godfather, Joe, which is, he says that, he goes, what you want to do is you want to sit down and think this, everybody. Okay, so yes, I still charge, a fee for my professional services, and I might even charge an hourly rate for extra things that I do. Great. Okay, what I'm saying to do, what Joe says to is, but I want you to imagine that you pay $25 just to get in the door. Right. Hey, welcome. In addition to all those extra charges, here's $25 to cross the threshold. Right. Now just think about what? It's like, I know, isn't that crazy? Now imagine if they literally had to swipe their credit card, $25 to open your office door. What would they have to see if they went into that office and had just paid $25 to think, oh, this is worth it? And it's not a tidy lobby with a coffee table and a bunch of financial planning magazines on it and an oil, as we're Canadians, an oil painting of Bay Street. Exactly. Or in the United States, for your friends down there, for your audience down there, the print of the oil painting of Wall Street, or the bulls running, oh my goodness. You have to go in. So think not only admission worthy, think time/attention worthy. Right. And the third one, as I pick it up in my hand again, photo worthy. Right. Nobody freeze frame that phone. You'll see I've dropped it a few times. Yeah. Photo worthy. When you feel compelled, emotionally triggered, to take your phone out and take a picture. So once again, I'm going to try to tie three things together now. You'd said earlier, well, who's doing it really well? I said, well, guys, people I know, I beg your pardon. And I referred to them doing this work like it's a theme, right? Right. So anybody listening that thinks, oh, this Dennis would like me because I got this dialed in. Okay, if you think so, this is what would have to happen. I would have to go into I'd have to review all your stuff and then go into your space, and I'd have to think this, wow. Oh, wow. This is surprisingly different. Cool, and then I'd have to stand there, a reference to the movie The Usual Suspects here. And as I stand in your lobby doing my own version of Kaiser Sose, just taking it all in, I should be able to figure out what you're all about. And just bucket list. I'm reminded of an office I was in one time in Sacramento. Fans. Oh, Dennis, the guy that brought me there to speak was like, can we arrange to go see these people? I said, oh, of course. He goes, I feel almost funny saying this when I say that. They're fans. Like I'm full of myself and I'm not. I'm humbled by that. Yeah. That is what they are. Yeah. Find somebody who reads everything you ever put out. Like you almost blush when you meet them, So it's like, Dennis, they're fans. Can we go meet them and then we'll take their part? I was like, absolutely. So when we got there, we were there early. They were tied up in meetings. I'm sitting in this lobby and I'm just sitting there with my friend who became an advisor then in Colorado. He's a client of ours to this day. He's like, you guys changed my life. But at the time he was working for a big annuity company in the United States. So we're sitting there in the lobby. He's been in the office a million times, feeling like a hero for bringing me in. We're just sitting up looking around. I look at the stuff on the walls, I say to the receptionist, can I walk down this hall? Okay, but she's delighted. She goes, oh yeah. So I go down the hallway. I come back, I go, can I go over there? And she goes, yeah. So I go down that hallway. I come and I sit down and then I look around and I go, are you guys all about like the bucket list and living your dreams? Well, this is what I saw. Right. There were great big pictures on the wall. There was like a Tour de France bicycle ride. There was a picture, if I remember, of I definitely remember, of Eddie Vedder. Of Pearl Jam.
All right, Pearl Jam, yep.
No, I know. I'm a fan. All sweaty and furious and singing, and the photo is taken like from first row kind of thing. And then there was a mountain, like a mountaintop. Right. Okay. Those big pictures represent the life bucket list goals of the partners of the firm. And when I went down the hallways, what I saw were different boardrooms, all of them themed like different parts of the world, travel and exploration.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
The guy I'm with literally goes, what? And I'm like, you didn't notice that? And, I feel like I'm picking on him, but I wasn't. He's like, no. But he goes, now that I see it, and that's a funny thing about experience. Experience is both overt and subtle. Overt and subtle. So it has to be admission worthy, time worthy. You want your clients, when they look at the clock and realize, geez, this is probably going to wrap in 15. Well, then they feel disappointed. Oh, I can stay for all day.
Only this.
And the third is they better want to take their phone out. Can you imagine having such an amazing experience? They enter, the way they're treated, greeted. We talked about all this. Then they're sitting in this amazing space. Perhaps you're playing something on a big TV on the wall that's different, surprising, educates them, entertains them, pulls them in. One of the clients in our online community, on a great big TV in his lobby, he plays this video. He told me the other day, Alex said, yeah, you know that thing you shared about this guy? Somebody picture this. Mm-hmm. I shared a video that I found very inspiring in my online community of this kid, this young man in California by the looks of it, who was trying to land a skateboard trick.
Right.
Okay, what? Okay.
All right. Yeah.
And what makes it so powerful is he falls down. Just think of the road rash here. The guy wipes out like 30 times. And then I'll jump to the end. He finally sticks it.
Right. Does it?
And after a while, you're almost he must have broken himself a few times doing it. He finally sticks it and he skates away into the sunset. My client plays that video, has that video playing on the television when you're sitting in his well-appointed lobby. Yeah. It's the first time you met him, and he brings you in and he wants to talk to you about goal planning, goal setting, and achieving them. And he knows you. He treats you like a VIP. Then you watch this totally surprising video and you think, what the hell is this about? But by the end, you're like, literally, man, you're like, yeah, he did it.
you're with him. You cannot wait for him to do this.
And what did you think of that video? And could you relate with it? Tell me about a time in your life where you just kept doing it until you got it right. Yeah. Now, here's the trick. Not the trick. The subtlety.
Right, the subtlety.
Every time you go to visit Alex's office, that video is different. And it's always related to what you're going to do. So again, admission worthy? Yes. Time and attention worthy? Yeah, make sure. And the third is imagine a scenario where you have now said, okay, Dennis, let's go down to my office and break some rocks, you know? And I said, yeah, for sure, Chris. Hey, man, just before I go, leave your lobby. Let me just take a picture of it.
Right. Make it
like you might do in the lobby of the Four Seasons. Oh, look at that beautiful this.
Right.
And if you're listening, you're like, yeah, I guess so, but I don't know if I'd want to do that. That's why 60% of advisors would rather stay home, and it's not too long until they'd rather stay home and pay you zero.
Right. Absolutely. And that is, and then, you know, I've been in this business a long time, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, advisors who focus on the client experience always do well. There's an 80-20 in the world for a reason. So you've summed it up. So I got a couple rapid fire questions as the part of the segment where I'll ask you questions and you just spit out the first response. First of all, what do you love to do more than anything?
Downhill ski.
All right. And how long have you been doing that?
Since I was 11 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's right. What appeals to me about it is I like things that take a long, long time to master. And candidly, I'm in my early 50s and I get better every year. So like I am tremendously, that's an easy answer for me. It's like skiing. I love everything about it. We better move on, or that's all I want to talk about now.
I love it. Now you've used some great examples before, but what is the most memorable, whether interaction or outcome from a client, from working with an advisor? What's the one thing that comes to your mind first of an outstanding, result?
Wow. It's not that I can't think of one. Okay, I'm going to use, I can think of 50.
Yeah, but the first one.
Are you panicking or choking?
Yeah.
Choking, you forget everything you know. Panicking, you remember everything you know.
Right.
And you don't know where to start. Okay, so this is a good story. This is a lovely story, and the lion's share of this work was done by my business partner, Tom. So just like your clients, everybody, all of this financial planning that they need to get done is in the way. Until it's done, they can't think about what's actually important. Right. So as a little takeaway here, let me say, and then I'll give you the answer to this question, that the privilege and the pleasure of having a financial advisor and a financial plan isn't the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Nobody is surprised when it works.
When you give what you said you were going to give, right?
Yeah, it's like you told me, and we did this, and you said wait a long, long time, and it'll be there, and it is. So way to go. What the pleasure and the privilege of all of that is that it allows you to talk about something that's actually important,
right?
Like who you want to be when you grow up. So imagine this: we have this client, and I don't even know. Do people get to see this video or do they just hear it? I don't even know.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Okay. So probably if you can't see me, if you didn't hear me, you can tell that I'm a little bit of a high energy person. Just subtly.
Right. Subtly.
Okay. So the client I'm talking about, his name is John. He's a client of ours in California. He hasn't been for some time, but he was for a while, and he's a fan. And whenever I'm in San Diego, I make sure I see him. He makes me look like I need, adrenaline injections. He makes me look like I'm
really excitable.
So one day Tom calls and goes, hey, you got a minute? Tom's my partner. I go, yeah. He goes, I just had my call with John C. Last name starts with C. I go, oh yeah, how's John doing? We called him Johnny. How's Johnny? He goes, forgive me for that. He says, John had his moment. Now we refer to that as, just like you folks, what's your client's moment?
Right.
So Chris, we got this whole financial plan done, and you and Mrs. Chris can go to sleep this evening and feel good about yourselves. Okay. Can I ask a question? What's all of this been preventing you from thinking about? It's a great question. Okay.
I love that question. That's a great
Tom
question.
Gets on the phone with John and he goes, so I called John today at his moment. I go, right on. He says, yeah, he was really low key. Okay. So I literally said, like, I don't believe it. I'd have to see it to believe that. This is Tom calls. Everything is in place in John's business, and John's super calm and starts to talk about what's next, which is not reconciling, but I'm going to use reconciling and strengthening and investing in his relationship with his family, not his immediate family, his sister specifically, his nephews, Like, I'm the number one guy in this firm in this state, and I'm rock star Uncle John. My nephews live 5 miles from me, and I haven't seen them in 6 months. Boom. So now this isn't me. This is my business partner, Tom. What does that say about Tom? Tom, what's your favorite part of the job? He'd tell you about the moment. Like I could tell you about, I got a referral in the last couple of weeks from one of our clients in our community who introduced me via email to this other person who can make things happen for me. And my client said, I have 15 unsolicited referrals this year. So in 6 months. And it's all because I'm just doing what Dennis did. So that's kind of cool, but that's not as cool as low-key John talking about I'm a lousy uncle. That's what I want to get into. And that's what everybody, all of the advisors listening, you'll feel good. It's very noble. It's way more rewarding. And I hate bringing money into it, but in your enlightened self-interest, it's good business being somebody's hero. You know what I mean? It's like, it really is. Better.
And this might even fold into the next question, which is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Oh, come on. Really? That's a tough one. Jeez.
The first one to pop in your head.
Have one more kid than you think you need.
There you go.
The only advice.
That's a piece of advice.
It's the only advice that my father gave me that I didn't take.
Wow.
I think about it all the time. Okay. So there you go. Here's the best business advice I was ever given by Susan, who works for me. The needs of the corporation must be met, which is, it's not your money, it belongs to the business. Right. You just work there. You got to just be an employee of your own business. Okay. So that would be it. And then I guess that would be it. Those would be the two. That would be
I love it.
That's a tough one. That's a real tough one.
But, I get some great answers out of that one. So my rant, I always do a little rant as a little summary here, because as I said, we're so aligned in this. Like I've been believing in fact, IPC has a whole area called total client experience. But to your point, some people take some of it, some take all of it, some really think it through, some have fantastic experiences. But I think the point that we're all trying to make here is being in business is about focusing on the client experience. How do you make them feel? And, you've given 1,000 examples, and they've been great examples. And if there's one takeaway that every advisor or anyone listening to this podcast should take, is focus on the client experience. And I think I'll use the line of, what would you do differently if you were charging admission?
Precisely.
So with that, any final words for our audience, Dennis?
Well, I certainly want to thank everybody for giving us the time and listening. It means a lot, and thanks. And come and check us out. We're at SeriousShift.com. You can learn all about us. Sign up for the blog. Consider joining our community.
And read the book.
Read the book. As I say all the time, if you like the podcast, read the blog. If you like the blog, come on into the community. Everybody in there was a blog reader that just wanted a little bit more. And we're a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of financial advisors who believe there's a better way, a more enjoyable, genuine way to be an advisor, to own a practice, to be successful and affect positively the lives of your clients. Just come on in. The shift is fine. Come on in. It's great. You're going to like it.
I love it. It's a great summary. Thank you very much, Dennis. If you have any comments about this particular podcast, put it in the comments. Once again, thank you, Dennis, and everyone have a wonderful day. So if you've liked what you've heard today, do us a favor and hit subscribe. That way you'll find another episode and another actionable takeaway on how to keep building a better business.